String bends are something that's very fun to do. It sounds kind of like rock and roll and bluesy. That's where it's most often used. But we use it on the ukulele too, like this. Having a string bend is almost essential if you want to do any type of solo ukulele work. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few things that pertain to the string bend. First thing I want to mention is that when you do bend the string, you don't want to use all your raw finger strength. Look at this. You're not going to be doing this, trying to push the string up like that. You're actually going to use multiple fingers first of all, and you're going to turn your wrist. Watch this. If I hold this note here, this is a D in the 5th fret, and I try to bend it, I'm using my wrist movement. Look at the back of my hand. You see that it's moving? I wish I had a camera on the back. I guess I kind of do. There. So when I bend the string, see that turn? And look at the flex, guys. We're turning the wrist and we're bending it like that. We're pushing the string up. There's a couple of tricks that I use to do this. Number one, I'm not only using one finger, because if you only use one finger to do it, you might have a hard time getting it. The pointer finger might be possible because it has so much strength in it, but the other fingers could be a problem. So when you're bending the string, put other fingers behind it. If I play this note and I put this finger here, that doesn't change the note, and neither does this. So when I want to, I can use that extra power to make the string bend. We've got an exercise that's coming up at the end of this video that's going to help you play your bends in tune. But that's one of the things that's very important when you're trying to work with string bending, is you want to make sure that you're bending it in tune. Most times you're going to be bending a half step or a whole step. So what does that mean? We're going to try to make this note here in the 5th fret sound like this note in the 6th fret by bending the string like this. So here I'm in 5. I want it to sound like this. So there it is. If you want to be really accurate, you can sit there with a tuner. I would suggest that when you're bending a string or when you're practicing to bend a string, you practice very slowly. So you're going to start by hitting the note. Here I am again in our example. I'm in the 5th fret. I'm going to make the 4th fret sound like the 5th. There it is. I'm going to do it slowly till I find it. Take your time to find that bend, because that bend, when you speed it up, it's going to sound beautiful and perfect, which is what we're looking for. Another type of bend is the pre-bend. The pre-bend is a bend that starts bent, so to speak. So here I am in the 5th fret. I want this 5th fret to sound like this note, but I don't want to bend to it. I want it to sound like this. See, I'm already in the 5th fret. I'm playing that note. And then normally what happens is when you do a pre-bend, you bend off of the note like this. Remember that bends work both ways. If you bend the string in the upward direction, it's going to sound the same as if you were to bend it in the downward direction. So, when you're choosing which way to bend your string, think about where the strings are situated on the neck. Normally what I'll do, if I'm bending on the bottom 2 strings, I'll bend upwards. But if I'm on the top 2 strings, these 2 guys up here, I'll bend downwards. I'll push it in that direction anyway. Hopefully that helps you. A lot of times you'll see guitar players with their thumb above the neck like this to give leverage so that they can push down while they're pushing up, which makes sense. But here's the thing I want you to be aware of. when you're bending, you shouldn't be, I'm going to get the headstock into view here. When you're bending, you shouldn't be pushing the neck up. You should be only pushing the string up, like that. The string needs to move against the fingerboard in order for this bend to work. If you push up while you're pushing the neck up, nothing's going to happen. The string's going to move with the ukulele, right? So you want it to move against the ukulele. Just like that. If you want to put the thumb above the neck for that extra leverage, by all means. If the guitar players do it, it must be good, right? I use the grooves that are in my fingertips to hold the strings. How do you stop your finger from slipping? I'm going to put my finger here in the 5th fret, where I know I'm going to want to bend to go to the 6th fret. To do that, I'm going to put fingers behind it like this. So those are my 3 fingers that I'm going to use eventually to push the string in an upward direction like this. You see that string bending, right? That's what a string bend looks like. Now, I'm going to release my fingers from the ukulele so you can look at my fingertips. Because what I want you to see is that I'm using the grooves in my fingertip to hold the string in place. So the string is going to sit right in that groove right there. If you don't have a groove yet, maybe because you didn't hold the chord yet, you can also use the little ridges on your fingertip to hold on to it. But the most important thing, in order to make this work, is that you play on the tips of your fingers. If you try to do a bend with your finger flat like this, it's not going to work. I'll put fingers behind it. It's very difficult to do a bend with the flat part of your finger. So probably the most important tip I could give you is to use the tips of your fingers. Turn your wrist when you bend. Don't use all finger strength. If you use your wrist strength, it'll get there. Good luck. This is the half-step string bend exercise. For this one, you're going to see a piece of music here that looks a little different because although you recognize that 12 in the 1st fret, first measure, you may not understand what's going on with that 11 because it's got that upward arrow. But as you can probably figure out based on the fact that this is a video about bending, that symbol is telling you to bend. The half symbol is telling you how far to bend. So in this case, what that's telling you is to put your finger in 11. And once again, I'm going to put fingers behind it to help with the bend. And then I'm going to bend to make this note, that's 11, sound like this note in 12. So to check, we play 12 first. That's what it sounds like. Now we're going to make 11 sound like 12. And there it is right there. So to play this, I would be and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then bend. Bend. Go all the way down. And. Switching strings, and. Switch strings. Switch direction too if you want. One more. Notes on this exercise. Number one, I want you to understand that doing it slow is going to be your best option. Number two, I want you to remember that when you're doing these bends, if you're on the top couple of strings, don't forget to kind of bend in the downward direction. If I bend in the upward direction, I'm going to slip off. See that? But if I bend in the downward direction, I stay on the fingerboard. So especially when you get to the outer two most strings, make sure you choose your direction that you bend in wisely. There's another thing, and this is the last thing that I want to say, is that in the case of this exercise, this is a half-step bend exercise. There's also what's known as a full step bend. And this is just for your information. We'll talk about this in another video. But the full step bend means that you would go, instead of 1 fret up, you would go 2 frets up. So if I were going to bend this 7th fret note right here, I'll play 9th fret first to hear what it sounds like. And to the bend, I would go like this. That's about as far as we can bend. If you bend farther than that, it's going to be tough to do. Anyway, thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon.